I'm working on a design project of an apartment, actually combining two apartments into one. So the idea is I take the existing floor plan, which is underneath this tracing paper, and of course in this floor plan this is one apartment, so it has living room, dining room and bedrooms and kitchen. And the idea is that this particular floor I'm converting into the main floor, the public floor, the entertaining floor, you see. So my floor plan, which is very interesting, also gives me the ceiling heights. So in this entry foyer area here, one part of the ceiling is only at 90 inches, just over 7 feet. Another part is 8.5 feet. So one's got to kind of bear that in mind in terms of the design, because it's not just the flow of the space, but the ceilings and dramatic ceiling drops can make a huge difference. It's a post-war apartment. The client wants to make it look more traditional, pre-war. So here is the floor plan. It's a little difficult to see because it's moved over a bit. But basically, your very grand entry foyer, walking downstairs to the bedrooms rather than upstairs. So there's not going to be that sort of typical staircase that you see like in Father of the Bride. But that's of course because the upstairs has better views, being in New York City. Here is the living room, dining room, very large kitchen, and a maid's room, and then going all the way back around a little powder room and a den. So I'm going to show you some of the drawings that I've done to illustrate that so far. This one is quite interesting. I'm going to show you the first one. Oh, it's a little bit disorganized. Actually not. This is the entry foyer, and I'm going to put it over here like this that you can see it in line with this where I'm standing. The ceiling in this area, as I mentioned earlier, is dropped to about 7 feet 6 inches. So I've left the ceiling here dropped, and then I've actually put a cove light to look as if it's all intentional. The idea is that any of these architectural anomalies should look as if it's part of the design. Of course, it's a concrete slab. I can't put any lighting within that ceiling. There's probably a terrace or something upstairs. That's why it's dropped so radically. I've put a chair rail. The client wants something traditional, as I said, but quite low to emphasize the height. So you can see the chair rail is actually below the level of the console table. And then this archway, this sort of decorative archway that leads into the living room, has the same shape that echoes this cove light, giving height but not being sort of too overdone. I've curved this little wall over here. You can see it in the plan here of the stairs going down, and there's a little wainscoting. Here's a little bench, and you can see the little bench over here. Here is a console table with 2 sconces. You can see the console table over here. This is a door that leads out to the terrace, and you can see the door with the drapery over here like this. And of course the view goes right into the living room, and over here in the living room there's a bar. The client wanted a bar, and then of course it leads into doors into the dining room. This area over here is actually only 7 feet high, so I've made the door 7 feet. This ceiling over here is 8 feet over here where this dotted line is, and then over here is the ceiling that's about 8 feet 6. So here is the drawing looking at that bar. Here is the drop ceiling that drops down to 8 feet. I've put these kind of fake brackets in to make it look as if it's intentional, and just lowered another ½ an inch just to look as if there's a big beam that supports it. And then here once again is that archway that connects the living room to the foyer, which you saw in the other rendering. Here is a herringbone floor, French herringbone floor. Here is the bar, a little window. There's a little sink here which I've drawn very sort of subtly. I don't want it to be that noticeable. The walls are upholstered in a kind of a fabric, a plaid fabric. There is picture lights in the ceiling that will give a wash of light over the glassware. I can't do recessed lights because it's a slab ceiling. And then of course these are the doors that lead into the dining room with this large sort of door frame detail, which the client wants this kind of a look, which is a little heavy going for me because the ceilings are not that high, but it's interesting because it makes it look as if the door is 8 feet high. I couldn't actually use 8-foot tall doors because, as I said, the ceiling on the other side is only 7 feet. This would be an antique bar that's probably purchased abroad, and once again those wood herringbone floors, and so the room is great for entertaining.